Good afternoon. Welcome back to Deb's True Crime Notebook. We have day 8 in the Richard Allen trial going on. This is the 26th of October. It's a Saturday. And as you know, they do have court from 9 to noon on Saturdays. They adjourned and we have information. It looks like Lieutenant Jerry Holman testified today as to his interview with Richard Allen on October 26th. So let's see what they had to say. Judge Gull informed us that the alternate juror dismissed on Friday morning did not return to court today. She noted that the jurors had supervised access to their phones on Friday evening, being able to speak with their families and check emails. The state called Indiana State Police Lieutenant Jerry Holman to testify. He interviewed Richard Allen on October 26, 2022. Holman initially addressed Melissa Oberg's statement from Friday, where she likened a firearm toolkit test to a paternity test, asserting that her comment was not correct and that he had misunderstood her. Oberg, a former forensic firearm analyst, examined the unspent cartridge, referred to as the magic bullet by the defense. Discovered near the bodies of Abby Williams and Libby German, she concluded that it had been cycled by Allen's firearm. Holman explained to the jury the methods of interviewing suspects and various techniques he had acquired, including lying to suspects about the volume of evidence investigators possess and how to interpret a suspect's body language to assess truthfulness. He stated that he interviewed Allen at the ISP Lafayette Post, accompanied by Allen's wife, Kathy Allen. Holman mentioned that he initially did not intend to arrest Allen at the beginning of the interview, but still read his Miranda rights. Holman recounted that their initial conversation revolved around firearms, previous military experience, and whether anything was damaged during the investigators' search of Allen's home. He inquired if anyone had borrowed Allen's car, clothes, or gun for an extended period, to which Allen responded negatively. He also denied having his firearm with him on February 13, 2017, the day of the murders. Holman informed the jury that he had told Allen that Oberg's report linked the bullet to his gun, a claim Allen refuted. Holman noted that after denying this, Allen's demeanor shifted. The lieutenant questioned Allen about certain remarks he made during the search, prompting Allen to report or retort that his life was already shattered because of his friends and community believed he was guilty. Holman then brought up the Bridge Guy video and the witness and experts who claimed it depicted him. He admitted to the jury that he had lied to Allen about this, and it was not true. According to Holman, Allen denied being the killer and having his gun present at least 20 times. Following further exchanges, Holman recounted that Allen stated, "I am not going to tell you something I didn't do. I don't care what you do to me. I am not going to ever tell you something I didn't do." Throughout the interview, Allen repeatedly denied knowing the girls, with both men hurling expletives at one another. Holman also mentioned that Allen did not provide an explanation for why a cartridge had been cycled through his gun. Holman mentioned that Allen eventually acknowledged he was present on the High Bridge on February 13, 2017. During the interview, they paused briefly, and Holman overheard Allen speaking to his wife, Kathy, suggesting if she requested a lawyer, they would allow her to leave. Resuming the interview, Allen informed Holman that he carried his firearm in a side holster with one round in the chamber. He continued to assert that he did not know Libby and Abby, and he had no knowledge of how his bullet ended up there. Holman took a moment to explain to the jury his training in detecting deception. He highlighted common signs to observe, such as body language indicators, like touching the face or avoiding eye contact. He noted that while there were few signs of deception from Allen, they were very subtle. At one point, Allen allegedly asked Holman what kind of good person would kill 2 girls. Toward the end of the interview, Holman told Allen he thought he did it. In response, Allen said, "Then take all of your evidence and arrest him already." Following discussions with other investigators, Richard Allen was taken into custody. Defense attorney Andrew Baldwin initiated his questioning by pointing out that although Holman claimed he informed Allen of his rights, the initial part of the interview was not recorded. Holman acknowledged the lack of recording, but once they managed to start the camera, there was a delay in the footage that failed to capture Holman entering the interrogation room. Baldwin informed the court that this was just one of the many missing videos in this case. He then sought to introduce Allen's 2 interviews from October 2022 as evidence. Special Judge Fran Gull consented to present these interviews to the jury sometime next week. Following a brief recess, the jury reconvened in the courtroom to continue listening to ISP Lieutenant Jerry Holman's cross-examination conducted by defense attorney Andrew Baldwin. Holman revealed to the jury that he had told Richard Allen 2 falsehoods during the interview on October 26, 2022. One of these falsehoods, Holman claimed he wasn't being dishonest. "I'm not lying to you, Rick. That's unethical." Baldwin quoted attributing this statement to Holman during his conversation with Allen. Holman went on to say, he told Allen, "You're going to drag your expletive wife and daughter through this because you're too expletive, bullheaded to get in front of it." Baldwin argued that Holman's intent was to influence Allen's thinking regarding the consequences for his family. Baldwin further asserted that Holman did not forward the unspent cartridge to another agency for a second test to check if it matched Allen's Sig Sauer. He added that while Allen's drive home after the interview was recorded, a statement Holman claimed Allen made earlier in October was not captured on tape. Baldwin then probed Holman about his theory regarding the location of Richard Allen's car on February 13, 2017. Holman replied that he lacked a definitive theory and could not name any witnesses who knew where Allen's car had been parked. He also admitted that he had not reviewed security camera footage that depicted Allen's vehicle near the trail. Several law enforcement officers indicated that they believed Allen had departed the crime scene by 3:30 p.m. and his involvement in the murders concluded by 4 p.m. They also expressed doubt that Allen had taken Liberty German's phone from the scene, which Baldwin noted could provide a significant timeline. Holman then informed the jury that he initially thought more than one individual may have been responsible for Libby and Abby's deaths, but now believed only one person was the perpetrator. He commented on previous law enforcement statements regarding Libby's death and mentioned their attempts to analyze the height of Bridge Guy from the video footage, though they deemed it likely inaccurate. Baldwin interjected, noting that such analysis would have approximately cost $10,000. Baldwin inquired if Holman was aware of the hair found in Abby's hand, which had not undergone DNA testing until the previous week. Holman replied that timing and resources needed to be allocated to other areas. "Yes, mistakes have been made," Holman admitted regarding the overall investigation. The discussion then shifted to the sticks discovered at the scene and placed atop the girls' bodies. Holman stated that the sticks were used to conceal the crime, but they were not arranged in any particular manner. He further speculated that the killer might have heard people on the bridge before committing the murders, clarifying that it just is a theory. Holman also found 2 witnesses, Betsy Blair and Sarah Carbaugh, to be credible, and noted that they had contemplated the possibility of 2 individuals being present on the bridge. Baldwin pointed out that Libby's phone last pinged from a cell tower at 5:44 p.m. on February 13th. Holman remarked that Libby's sister, Kelsey Siebert, then Kelsey German, had not had her phone data extracted, but emphasized that he didn't need that information to arrest Allen. Okay, let's go to a short recap because this was an abbreviated session this morning. Saturdays are only from 9 to 12. The only witness they had on the stand today was Lieutenant Holman. So let's get into the recap. One of the first things that Holman did in his testimony was to revisit a comment that Melissa Oberg had made. And I believe it was the attorney who said, am I correct, that this firearms toolkit test is similar to a paternity test? And her comment was not correct. He did straighten that out, and then moved on to the subject at hand, his interview with Richard Allen. Richard Allen's Miranda rights were read to him, according to Holman. That has been something that has been questioned for a little bit because it was not on videotape. I guess there was a problem when Holman first entered the room. The tape wasn't moving at sorts, so that was not part of the recording, according to Holman. Holman also said that Allen denied being bridge guy about 20 times, and that he said, quote, "What kind of a good person would kill 2 girls?" I want to point out that Holman does admit to lying to Rick twice during that interrogation, and as I understand it, that is a common practice that law enforcement is allowed to do. They want to catch the potential perpetrator off guard, see if they'll confess. That is a tactic that they are taught. And that concludes our coverage of the Richard Allen trial for this week, the second week of hearings or trial. Guys, take a deep breath, go outside. What is the phrase they use? Touch some grass. In other words, let's get real and take a deep breath and brush off this week, the last 2 weeks. It's been a tough time for families of both sides, for people who were in the courtroom and who were sleeping outside to even get into the courtroom, even in the rain, and for all of those who have listened to very difficult coverage of this trial, hearing testimonies that broke our hearts. We'll see you next time, which should be Monday. Thanks for watching. Do all the things for me. Follow, like, share. You know the routine. And could you leave me a comment and let me know, if you carry a firearm, do you keep a bullet loaded in the chamber at all times? I'd like to know if that's a common practice. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you Monday.